Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I am Alec Etheridge, and Andrew, we start the week under the lights. We're going to end the week under the lights as we get this show going, and it's the final week of region play, and it's going to be a big one. There is so much at stake this week, and I spent a lot of the weekend trying to dive into all the playoff scenarios. I know you did a lot of research as well, and this is as bizarre of a situation as I can remember over the past 7 years, entering the final week of region play and the situations that could unfold, the possibilities that are out there, and it could go into the following week, into that final week of non-region play, the final week of the regular season as well. So a lot at stake this week, and Thompson last week is the one team that has kind of taken care of business. They lock up the region championship with their 39-0 shutout of Tuscaloosa County. So the Warriors, they get that first region championship since 2020, I believe the fourth now, under head coach Mark Freeman. So continuing to do special things. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're going into a big matchup against Hoover this week. Typically, that's been the game of the week for the last 6-7 years as far as I can remember, and we're going to give you a pretty impressive stat as far as the last time this game was played that it was not for a region championship here when we break that game down. But it's not our game of the week for the first time in a while. A little bit refreshing, actually. And we have another big one that's going to take place on the road. We're here at Helena High School. The Helena Huskies going to be the team taking part in our game of the week as they travel to Benjamin Russell. It's pretty simple for the Huskies. They win, they get the region championship. They lose, there's a lot of chaos that could ensue in Class 6A Region 3. That's where we're going to start here in just a minute. With Helena going on the road to Benjamin Russell, Briarwood taking on Homewood in a big rivalry battle as well in Class 6A Region 3. But first, just a little bit about the playoff situation going into this week. Like I said, Helena looking to lock up the region championship, but there could end up being a three-way tie for that region title if they lose this game. And same on the other end. If they win this game, Briarwood beats Homewood, there could be a three-way tie for the final three seeds in this region. We'll try to do our best here shortly to explain how all that could unfold. And then the Shelby County Wildcats, a team currently in a three-way tie right now for the final two seeds in their region. Spain Park in a situation in Class 7A Region 3 where a win over Oak Mountain, a Hewitt loss, and things could get very interesting there for a final playoff spot in Class 7A Region 3. And the Vincent Yellow Jackets also could end up in a three-way tie if they're able to pull off a win against Thorsby this week. And for all those asking, when it comes to the playoff situation and those three-way ties, it comes down to defeated non-region opponents. And in that situation, you have to have beaten a non-region opponent, and all those wins combined from those non-region teams that you've beaten will be what ends up deciding the tiebreakers at the end of Friday night, if not at the end of the following Thursday or Friday night as well, in that final week of the season. So, Andrew, that kind of sets the base for what's going to be a crazy show today, one that we're typically long-winded enough in, so we're going to try to keep it as concise as possible. But each game, we're going to have a lot to talk about. But just looking at the slate of games that we do have, what is it that sticks out to you the most? And, I mean, like we just said, all of them really have a lot on the line this week as well.
I think it's the simplest one. It's we have one game this week that's for a region championship, and that's this one behind us in Helena and Ben Russell. I'm very excited to see these two teams who have really just been the class of this region battle it out on the field, see what they have in store, and see if Helena can come out and secure another undefeated region run and another region championship. It's going to be exciting for them, and it would be an incredible feat if they could.
Yeah, it would be awesome for the Huskies, and they're putting in work right now. This is a team sitting at 8-0 right now, looking to finish off region play undefeated. So much at stake at this game. It's crazy how much could change with their first loss of the season. We see them as one of the best and most complete teams in the state this season in the 6A classification with what they can do offensively and the defense that they bring to the table as well. So a great opportunity for the Helena Huskies this Friday night on the road against Benjamin Russell. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about that game, our game of the week, and get straight into all of the action that's coming up. We'll then go to Briarwood and Homewood before we jump in and go into the rest of the games, including those big ones in Class 7A Region 3 as well. So a lot to touch on in this week's show. Make sure you stay tuned as we break down all the playoff scenarios and obviously all the games. And at the end, our SCR Stars of the Week. But let's jump in. Let's get to it. We start with our game of the week between Helena and Benjamin Russell. As we mentioned, a lot at stake as the Helena Huskies hit the road to take on Benjamin Russell, and it's pretty simple, though. When you look at all the chaos that could happen, the easiest scenario for Helena to walk away as region champions is to take care of business on the field. If they can go on the road, win this game at Benjamin Russell, they will be the Class 6A Region 3 champions for this season, and I think they've got the team to make that happen. But we've seen Benjamin Russell this year. We're going to talk a little bit more about the matchup head-to-head here in just a second and how athletic and fast that Benjamin Russell offense is. But let's look at what can unfold in this playoff situation. So simple situation. Like I said, if Helena wins, they get the top seed in this region. If they lose, though, it could get very interesting. And there's a few situations that could unfold here. A Helena loss and a Briarwood win, and you've got Benjamin Russell as the region champion. Helena would be the 2 seed. Briarwood would end up sliding into the 3 seed, and Homewood would end up as the 4 seed. But the craziest scenario in all of this is that if Helena loses and Homewood wins, then you've got a situation where there's a 3-way tie for the region championship, and that's when it would come down to defeated non-region opponents and their overall wins for the season. In that situation, there's a chance right now, if Helena wins their final game against Vestavia Hills, then they would likely still be the region champion this season, because the teams that they have beaten outside of region play would total up to the most wins. Right after that, it would come down to then head-to-head between Benjamin Russell and Homewood, and Homewood would have that tiebreaker from earlier in the season as well. So there's just so much that could happen there. Obviously, some other scenarios here as well, but the most likely of the two situations, Helena going to have to take care of business to win a region championship. If they lose, Briarwood wins, things could get a little bit more interesting. I'm sorry, if they lose and Homewood wins, things could get a little bit more interesting for that region championship. We'll have a little bit more on that as the week progresses. Obviously, after Friday night unfolds, we're going to know a whole lot more, and whether that final game for Helena against Vestavia Hills is going to mean something for playoff implications or not. But for the Helena Huskies, Andrew, simple situation is to go in, take care of business, but we both know this is a very talented Benjamin Russell team. Talk about the breakdown of the Huskies and the Wildcats, what each team does well, and who you see being able to take advantage of what they do best to walk away with a win in this matchup.
Yeah, and I think it's easy because both of these teams do a lot of things very well. We've seen both of these offenses be absolutely explosive, mainly in the passing game. Helena just having a lot of weapons with Carson Acker at quarterback, Hunter Hale at receiver, and it just extends from there. This team is just top to bottom loaded within the passing game and has a run game to back it up, which we've seen can not only go for those short yardages, but they can also get big yardage plays on the ground as well. There's a lot of ways that this Helena team can hurt you, and they can do it very consistently throughout the game. And then Ben Russell, on the other hand, they can run the ball, but we've really seen the passing game be where they developed. I know you saw their passing attack last week, and especially Auburn commit wide receiver Malcolm Simmons and the performances that he's had against both Pelham and Briarwood the last couple of weeks. So I think that is what it really boils down to this week, is stopping Ben Russell's passing attack. Helena obviously has a very great passing defense, and they are well equipped for that. But we know what Ben Russell can do if they're able to find their receivers in space. They can carve up that space very quickly and make the big plays that they need to in order to get those big yardage plays and really start hurting you throughout the air.
Yeah, this is a Benjamin Russell team, like you said. They are fast and they are athletic. And Briarwood did a good job of slowing them down last week, making it more of a game at their pace. And then in that second half, it was like a flip switched. And Benjamin Russell said, we just need to get the ball in space, get it into our playmakers' hands. And once they did that, that speed really started to show off, and Briarwood didn't have the speed to keep up with that Benjamin Russell offense. But Briarwood had a physical presence to them. Helena brings both a physical and fast presence with their defense. They like to fly to the football, and I think that's something that could really be a key in this game. This is a Helena defense that's been outstanding so far this season, and same for their offense. This Helena offense is as balanced as it's been. and they're scoring north of 40 points per game. Traditionally in the past, this is a team that's scoring in the 20s, maybe the low 30s, and they rely on their defense and a heavy running attack. This year they can throw the football with Carson Acker. They can run the football with Jordan Washington. Dominic Santiago had a big game this past week in a backup role. And then they've got Jeremy Spratling, who's trying to battle back from an injury as well and can make some big-time plays. So they're three deep at running back. They're strong in the passing attack this season, and you pair that with the defense. This is a very talented football team. Andrew, do they have enough on both sides of the ball to go on the road in what's going to be a difficult place to play and pick up this win to claim the region championship on Friday night?
I really think that they do. You really look at this team, and despite the challenges that they've faced so far this season, they've overcome everything that's been in front of them. They prevailed in blowout situations. They prevailed in close game situations. They prevailed against a lot of different opponents throughout the spectrum of the region. I think they're about as well prepared and well coached as they can be coming into this game, and I think it just all boils down to maybe this coaching staff has figured out some of these playoff situations that we figured out, but the one thing that they're preaching to the players, I guarantee you, is win and we're in. Take care of business, and we don't have to worry about anything else. And I guarantee you that this team is going to come out on the field, play their hardest, and come out and try to get this win. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a very close game since both these teams are so well matched up against each other. But I think that's going to be Helena prevailing in a very close affair.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we saw last week Benjamin Russell was a second-half team against Briarwood. Briarwood dominated that game for the first two quarters, especially defensively, and then in the third quarter had a 21-6 lead, ultimately going to lose that game with a disappointing finish there in the final, really 13-ish minutes to that game. But Briarwood was controlling that game for the most part. Helena is a team that, one, can come out, set the tone early, but also in the second half. We know what they like to do in the second half, and that's wear you down. And I think that's the difference. I think Helena in the second half of this game is where they win this football game. You just look at what they're doing so far this season on both sides of the ball, scoring 42 points per game, giving up 11.5 points per game. Benjamin Russell's good, scoring 35.1 points per game, giving up 20.3 points per game. But Helena is exceptional. They've been so good on both sides of the football. All they have to do is have a good week of focus, preparation, go in, everybody individually do their jobs, and they should win this game. But going on the road in any situation, especially when there's this much on the line, you know officiating's always a difficult thing on the road. You know that the environment's going to be difficult, and you've sat on a bus for an hour and a half, 2 hours as well. So there's just so many factors that can play into this game. But at the end of the day, once you get out there on that football field and you know what's at stake, you just got to take care of business. Right now, I think Helena too balanced on both sides of the ball, and I think that makes the difference. I expect the Huskies to walk away with a win and claim the 2023 Class 6A Region 3 championship. That said, if they do not, buckle up. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the other games in this region on Friday night, but also going into that final week of non-region play in the final week of the regular season to see what could unfold, who could be the region champion, who could be the 2-seed, 3-seed, 4-seed in this region. So a lot still at stake, but for our sake, it'd be very easy if Helena just goes in and wins this game, makes our job a lot easier. We don't have to sit there and do a bunch of math late on Friday night and going into early Saturday morning. So we'll see how it unfolds. Big night, big opportunity ahead for both of these teams, but we'll see if Helena can walk away with the region championship. We continue on in Class 6A Region 3 as the Briarwood Lions going to host the Homewood Patriots in a big game for both of these teams, and especially with what's at stake when it comes to the playoffs. When you look at Briarwood, a chance that they get the 3-seed, and honestly they're hoping that things unfold a little bit differently with that Helena-Benjamin Russell game, as if Helena loses, Briarwood wins, Briarwood going to be the 3-seed and slide in ahead of Homewood in the 4-seed spot, Helena the 2-seed in that situation, and Benjamin Russell the top seed. So for Briarwood, they're looking to win. They're looking for a Helena loss. That'll get them a better seeding in the playoffs. But if Helena loses, if Homewood wins, then there's a situation where if Helena wins and Briarwood wins, there's a situation where you end up in a 3-way tie for that final 3 seeds in this region. In that situation, though, Briarwood likely going to be the 4 seed because of those defeated non-region opponents and their total wins and that would ultimately make a difference. Homewood would be sitting in really good shape in that situation. So Briarwood needs to take care of business, hoping for a Helena loss as well so they can get a higher seed in this one. But this is going to be a difficult matchup for Briarwood. That said, I think they match up well. Last week I didn't think they matched up well. This is a team that wants to be physical. They don't like a lot of speed. They want to come in and be physical and wear you down in the trenches. And that was a team in Benjamin Russell that was just so fast and athletic that they wanted to get the ball in space and make it more of a track meet. That's what they did in the second half. It kind of cost Briarwood in that game. This week, though, Andrew, they get a Homewood team where, yeah, they've got some speed, they got some athleticism, but to me, these two teams match up really well from a physicality standpoint. Both these teams want to make it a physical battle and somewhat of a rivalry matchup now between these two as well. So when you look at that, what is it that makes the difference in this game and who walks away with a win?
I think that the key is the Briarwood defense, because a lot of what we saw Homewood's attack in last week was through the ground game. Granted, Homewood was out Will Myers at quarterback due to something that should only keep him out for the week, but they had to start their sophomore quarterback, and through that they had a lot of quarterback draws, a lot of plays to their running backs, and their goal was to just hurt Pelham through the ground, and the Panthers really didn't have that much to stop them. So they were able to get those yardage plays through the ground and just really extend out some long drives, throw off Pelham's momentum throughout that first half, and then just extended throughout the game. So that said, though, I think that Briarwood has to like their chances here just because of how good of a run defense that they have and how good they're able to blow that up through the line. And I don't think that they have the speed on the outside either to match up as well as Ben Russell did from a speed standpoint on the outside as well. So I think that Briarwood's defense has to really like where they are right now, allowing 19 points per game. And I think that that's the key, is just get in, blow up the run, blow up the pass, and put as much pressure on this Homewood team as possible. That said, though, the offense still needs to do what it needs to do in this matchup as well, but they're peaking at the right time. The past three performances, 24 against Helena, 38 against Calera, and then 21 against Ben Russell. The Helena and those Ben Russell results look really good compared to what some of those other teams have posted on those defenses right now. I think this Lions team is absolutely right where it needs to be at this time, and they can go out here and really make a good difference for them seeding-wise if they win this and get some help. But they know that they got to take care of business here, so I think that that's going to be what happens.
All right, so there's a Briarwood pick from Andrew, and this is a team, I think, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head with the defense. If the defense comes out and plays well, this is going to be a very good football team. I think that's what keeps this a tight game, because they do match up so well against this Homewood offense, and that makes this an entertaining football game. But we need to see a consistent performance for 4 quarters from the offense as well. And they showed flashes. They played extremely well in that first half last week. Even played well in the third quarter with a long drive that they didn't score on, and then a drive where they scored in 3 plays. So they played well for 3 quarters last week and did enough to win that game. But ultimately, late in that football game, it was the defense that had some struggles. So they've got to put it both together against a very good football team, against a well-coached football team that's playing its best football of the season. Started 0-3, and they've won 5 straight, Homewood has, and I think that is what makes the difference. This team playing with consistent confidence right now. Briarwood just been a little bit more inconsistent the last few weeks. If Briarwood comes out, though, has that complete performance on both sides of the ball, they're more than capable of it with how we've seen this offense grow throughout the season and with the talent that they have defensively. But right now, Homewood, the consistent team, I think that that's what makes the difference here in this football game and ultimately makes things interesting at the end of Friday night when it comes to the region standings. Well, we talk about all the crazy playoff situations this week. There's one thing that is for sure. The Thompson Warriors, they're going to go into the playoffs as a 1 seed out of Class 7A Region 3. They lock up the region championship last week against Tuscaloosa County, Andrew, and this is a team now that takes on Hoover in what's traditionally been the biggest game of the season for the last, 7 years. And this is the first time since 2016 that this game will not determine who wins the Class 7A Region 3 region championship. That's unbelievable to me that these two teams, not only that, they've met in the semifinals of the playoffs each year since 2017 as well. So just crazy the consistency that these two have played with. And we've talked a lot about Hoover and how this is the worst Hoover team in more than 20 years this season, but they're clicking at the right time. They found their groove. This is a team that's playing much better football right now on both sides of the football. Now they get the Thompson Warriors, and for Hoover, still a slight chance that they could miss the playoffs this year. It's pretty unlikely. We'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about Spain Park and Oak Mountain here in our next segment. So Hoover needs this game, and there's a lot that could happen if they win this game, a lot that could happen if they lose this game. But ultimately, when you look at this game on paper, Thompson, the way they've played football this year, the defense especially continuing to get better, and the way they fought back since that Clay-Chalkville game, you got to feel good about Thompson in this one as long as they don't lose focus after claiming the region championship last week.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key here because even when you look at the last couple of seasons when this was a region championship game, Thompson lost that game and really didn't show as much of a complete performance as they later did in the state playoffs. So you have to wonder how they're going to look now coming in. Obviously, they have a bye week next week, but traditionally they've used this as a little bit more to get a little bit more rest ahead of the playoffs as well. So whether that focus and dedication is going to be there this week remains to be seen, but bottom line is this is a big rivalry game, and you have to expect that there will at least be some fight from the Thompson Warriors here, and if that does happen, I think that they are the more skilled and more talented team, and with more momentum, too. We talk about Hoover and the complete performance that they were able to put up against Chelsea last week, a dominant run attack, a very good defense, holding Chelsea to just one score. And I think that was that combined with the last couple of results as well against Oak Mountain and Tuscaloosa County. Granted, it's against the non-playoff teams within this region, but they just look very good right now. And if they're able to take care of business here and get into the playoffs, you never know what might happen, honestly. They could be a tough out within the first round, even when facing some of the top teams within the state. But I think that overall, the X factors here is just going to be the pass rush and the run defense, just really getting on them on the line and preventing some of what they were able to do last week and in some of the previous weeks on the ground and at the line of scrimmage as well. I think that at the end of the day, Thompson's offense is just too hot right now. Scoring 40, 68, and 39 their last three, 43.1 points per game overall. I just think that's going to be too much, even if Hoover's able to hold them at some point, or if they're able to get enough on the offensive side. I think that just Thompson has way too much firepower right now from both a run game standpoint and the passing game standpoint. I don't really see many situations where this doesn't end up with a Thompson win.
Yeah, Thompson, since that Clay-Chalkville game, has just been playing great football on both sides of the ball. The offense, I think, has gotten better since then because that's the best defense they're going to face this year. And the defense has gotten better because it's the best offense they're going to face this year. So that's really benefited them, even though they lose that one in a tight football game. But like you said, Hoover is playing great football right now. After a 1-5 start, they've won 3 in a row now to get to 4-5 overall. And in those 3 straight wins, it's really been the defense that's played well. They've given up 14 or less in all 3 of those games, and that's allowed the offense to really start to click and get some momentum, scoring 37 or more in that stretch as well. So Hoover playing some good football right now, but Thompson scoring 43.1 points per game, giving up 10.9, and that's with the 36 they gave up to Clay-Chalkville a few weeks ago. So this defense, the way they're playing right now, that's the difference to me. I don't see Hoover against their best opponents so far this season. They've struggled. Against Auburn, they scored 14. Against Oak Grove to open the season, they scored 21. And obviously against Vestavia and Hewitt, they scored just 7 points. So against their best opponents, not scoring enough points, and the way this Thompson defense is playing right now, especially that secondary, Caleb Harris and Quan Fagans have been unbelievable all season long. Front 7 has gotten better and better as the season's gone along. Defense playing too good right now. The offense, way too balanced. They spread the field. Too many weapons there. As long as this team is focused this week in practice, and it's Hoover week, I don't think there's any reason for them not to be. The talent's there. They're the better football team this year. The last few years, it's been a bit more of a toss-up going into this game, and there is still a chance that Hoover does pull off this upset win, but Thompson is the clear team this year that's better in this matchup. It's just up to them to take care of business when they hit the field on Friday night. What an effort from the Spain Park Jaguars last week. And, Andrew, I chickened out on my pick. I had Spain Park ahead of last week. or 2 weeks ago, I should say. And then last week, I backtracked on my pick. I thought that they would beat Hewitt-Trussville a couple weeks ago. And then with that Hewitt-Trussville performance against Vestavia Hills, gained a little bit more confidence in the Huskies going into the actual game against Spain Park. But Spain Park came out and made a statement. The biggest win of the Tim Vakakis era. They take down number 5 Hewitt-Trussville 50-29 last week. And that game got close a little bit at times. But Spain Park controlled it. From start to finish, they controlled that game. They were the better football team on defense, the better football team on offense, and sophomore quarterback Brock Bradley with a coming-out game. I mean, he had an unbelievable performance, 410 passing yards, 4 touchdowns passing. Just a remarkable effort from him. Jonathan Bibbs in the receiving side of that with 10 catches, north of 150 yards as well. So those two, strong connection. Defense played great. They pick up a huge win that keeps their hopes of a playoff spot alive, and I'm going to try to go through and give you the scenario for Spain Park to get into the playoffs this week, and it's going to take me basically trying to read off this as best I can. But first off, it's simple as this for them to have a chance. They've got to win. Taking on Oak Mountain in a rivalry matchup on the road. They've got to win that football game against the Eagles, and you also have to have Hewitt-Trussville lose this week. Otherwise, it would be Vestavia or Hoover losing to give you an even match or even record in the region with those two, and both of those teams would have the tiebreaker over Spain Park. So right now that loss to Hoover by 8 points earlier in the season when they weren't quite healthy could end up looming big going into Friday night. But if Spain Park wins and Hewitt loses, if Hoover loses as well, then that would be the ideal situation. Hoover in a big matchup against Thompson. Or I'm sorry, Hoover would have to win that matchup with Thompson. If Hoover wins, Hewitt loses, and Spain Park wins, then Spain Park would get into the playoffs this year. And that's one scenario, one thing that would be able to get them in so far this season, or get them in going into the postseason. If Vestavia or Hoover lose and Hewitt loses, there would be a 3-way tie for those final 2 spots. If both Vestavia, Hoover lose and Hewitt lose, see, I'm telling y'all, it's getting crazy here. If Vestavia and Hoover lose, Hewitt loses, and Spain Park wins, there would be a 4-way tie for the final 3 spots. You look at that Spain Park loss to Hoover, that could play into a big situation there as well. So let's run through it here. Spain Park win, Hewitt loss, Hoover and Vestavia win, Spain Park is in. Let me say that again. If Spain Park wins, Hewitt loses, and both Hoover and Vestavia win, then Spain Park would have the head-to-head tiebreaker there over Hewitt-Trussville. If Hewitt loses and Spain Park wins with a Hoover loss and a Vestavia win, it'll come down to the Spain Park-Pelham game. If Spain Park beats Pelham, a good chance that they get into the playoffs in that scenario as well. And then you look beyond that. If Spain Park wins, Hewitt loses, Vestavia loses, and Hoover wins, Spain Park would be in the playoffs regardless as a 4 seed. Vestavia taking on Tuscaloosa County this week, so they would need Hoover to upset Thompson, Vestavia to get upset by Tuscaloosa County, Hewitt obviously to lose to Chelsea, and then them beat Oak Mountain as well. Vestavia would get the 3 seed in that situation due to defeated non-region opponents and their total number of wins, and that would put Spain Park then as the head-to-head over Hewitt for that 4th spot in the playoffs this year. So a lot to unfold and unpack in that situation. And obviously if Spain Park wins, Hoover, Hewitt, and Vestavia all lose. Vestavia gets the 2 seed. Spain Park win over Pelham would then give them the chance at the 3 seed, and Hewitt would get the 4 seed due to their head-to-head against Hoover. So none of that probably made any sense. It's all jotted down here. None of it's probably going to matter because a lot has to unfold. I don't see Hewitt losing to Chelsea. We'll talk a little bit more about that game in a few minutes, but there's that possibility for Spain Park, Andrew, going into this week, and that's something that's big for this program. It's big for head coach Tim Vakakis as he tries to build, and obviously with a young quarterback that can make some big-time plays. Just looking at this matchup against Oak Mountain, which is all that they can control, they have to feel good about where they are at this point in the season against an Oak Mountain team that won their first game of the year, has lost every game since then. Got to feel good if you're the Jags going into this matchup.
Definitely. If you're Spain Park, you have everything to play for. If you're Oak Mountain, you only have pride and the rivalry aspect really to play for. And Spain Park is hitting its stride right now at its best time of the season with that win against Hewitt last week. Just absolutely having a response for any single thing that Hewitt was able to throw their way. And a Hewitt-Trussville team that I honestly thought was one of the top 3 teams in the state in the past couple of times when I've seen them play. And it's been absolutely phenomenal to see what Spain Park was able to do in that situation, what they've been able to do down the stretch as well. And I just think that there's too many ways where Spain Park can win this game, honestly. I think the key right here, though, is to present a balanced attack and take the fight to Oak Mountain early, wrap up business early, and then just put all the pressure on them to make plays. And we've seen in the past that Oak Mountain really doesn't have that many responses as well. Spain Park averaging 32.1 points per game on offense. Defense allowing 22, but Oak Mountain, they've only scored 1 touchdown combined in their last 2 games against Thompson and last week against Vestavia Hills. So I think at the end of the day, rivalry aspects considered, we know obviously that can present a little bit of chaos in there as well. An Oak Mountain team really playing for nothing to lose. But I think that at the end of the day, Spain Park is the more talented team. There's a lot of different ways that they can hurt this Oak Mountain team. I think that Spain Park is going to get this win, and the fact that any of this is even possible comes down to them taking care of business last week and then taking care of business this week. Just taking care of what they could on the field within last week, and if they do this week, would already be a remarkable achievement, regardless of if they make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, it's definitely a program heading in the right direction. You talk about them giving up 22 points per game defensively. That's going up against some of the best offenses in the state, too. So this is a defense that's taken on the best challenges, gotten through that, now taking on a struggling Oak Mountain offense in this game. I like the Jags. I like them to pull away in this one, at least give themselves a chance to make the playoffs. We'll try to see if it works out in their favor, but we'll try to mark it all down at the end of Friday night. Who knows? There could be some kind of crazy upset there, whether Hoover ends up upsetting Thompson and they get into the playoffs. Hewitt has to obviously lose to Chelsea or Vestavia losing to Tuscaloosa County, but boils down to Spain Park winning, Hewitt losing. Those are the first 2 things that have to take care of themselves for Spain Park to make the playoffs. Regardless, great season for the Jags and this program heading in a very positive direction under head coach Tim Bakakis. All right, Andrew, so we've dissected Class 7A Region 3 enough at this point from a playoff standpoint. We just told you for Spain Park to have any chance, they've got to win. Hewitt-Trussville obviously has to lose this matchup to Chelsea. This is a Chelsea team that we've said it every week. They've shown flashes at times this season, but they hadn't been able to put it together consistently. This is their final home game of the season. You got a situation here where you're taking on one of the top teams. It's coming in, licking its wounds a little bit after that loss to Spain Park, and it's been an inconsistent Hewitt-Trussville team the last few weeks, losing in a game that they probably shouldn't have lost, then coming back and beating Vestavia Hills in a big situation. I say shouldn't have lost. They lost to Thompson. They should have lost that game. But coming back, beating Vestavia Hills in dominant fashion, and that's what I say probably shouldn't have won like they did, but they did. They dominated that game, and then they come back and they just look lost against Spain Park. So there could be that inconsistent aspect here, but right now you look at these 2 teams on paper, and this is a Hewitt team that just looks like a better team overall than what you're going to get from Chelsea on a consistent standpoint any given Friday night.
Exactly. We know what this Hewitt-Trussville offense can do. It's one of the most explosive in the state, and a really good attack on your quarterback, Peyton Floyd. And I think what it boils down to is this Chelsea defense is giving up 36.1 points per game on defense, one of the highest in the region. And there's not really that many ways that they can stop this Hewitt-Trussville offense. Regardless of what Chelsea's offense is able to do in this, we obviously know that Hewitt's defense has been not at its best over the last few weeks. But I think at the end of the day that there's not really that much that Chelsea can do from either side of the ball to make a difference against this Hewitt team. It's just too dangerous right now, and I think that even if they somehow have another off week after that Spain Park defeat, then I think even still that the Huskies have the edge in this. So give Hewitt the edge in this matchup, which would effectively take care of their playoff chances as well.
Yep, and that would end it for Spain Park as well. But, yeah, I mean, for Chelsea, the big thing is, one, they got to be consistent, but two, this is your final game. Last game of the season. You're going up against a good football team, possibly your last year in 7A for a while. We think they're going to go back down to 6A next year. So come out with you got nothing to lose. Just come out with that edge, and if they can do that, they've played the best team, some of the best teams in the state this season. So if they can come out, that defense is going to be the key. Like you said, giving up 36.1 points per game going up against this Hewitt offense, Hewitt's going to, I mean, they're going to blow you off the field if you don't do some things different defensively, and that's where they've got to have their edge this week. They've got to come out defensively, draw up some blitz schemes, bring the house. I mean, what do you have to lose at this point? Just do it all, and come with a physical presence that you're ready to just knock somebody over, and that's going to be your best chance to win. If the defense can come out and have that chippiness, have that edge to them, then you never know. That could be what makes this game a little bit tighter, gives Emerson Russell a chance to make some plays, gets that passing game going a little bit there if they can get some receivers in space. So it's got to start with the defense. Defense comes out and plays well. They could be in this game, but we've got to see that with the way they've played on a consistent basis this year compared to what Hewitt's done offensively on a consistent basis. The Huskies have to be the favorite to win this game and lock up their playoff hopes going into the postseason. Well, a tough stretch for the Pelham Panthers is, this is a team we thought that could compete with Helena, Briarwood, Benjamin Russell for the top spot in Class 6A Region 3, and they just never could put it together consistently. We saw flashes of it at times. Quarterback Clayton Maines making some big-time plays. The defense, which had some talent, made some plays every now and then, but just wasn't consistent enough, and they just never have had that other guy step up offensively, whether it be in the run game, whether it be a receiver, getting the ball out in space. It's created such a one-dimensional offense this year. I think that's been ultimately what has cost them. And now they get a chance, though, to end region play with a win against Chilton County, final home game of the season. So an opportunity for the Panthers to really put together a win and end with some confidence here in region play. And, Andrew, this is a Chilton County team that's also struggled. So when you look at it, honestly, I feel pretty confident Pelham can end region play with a win. But at the same time, this is a Chilton team that could put it together this week and pull away for a win as well.
Exactly. And you look at these two teams on paper, and they're honestly closer than you would really think of when you first think of this matchup. They have very similar results against common regional opponents. The offense is Pelham scoring 22.1 points per game, Chilton scoring 20.9, and then on defense, Pelham allowing 21.9 points per game, Chilton County allowing a little bit more at 26.5, but both of those are still very close units in the numbers game. But I think that overall, I think that Pelham is just going to come in with a little bit more motivation. This is their senior class's last game at Pelham Stadium, and I think that that's going to be what really makes a difference is that added motivation. Even though they got knocked out of the playoffs last week with a loss against Homewood, they're really going to want to come out and try to attack this game, and they see this as an opportunity to end region play with a win. And on the field, I think that they just have more big play potential. You've really seen that this offense looks good when the passing game is going and when it's going deep. They're able to get both the short and the long balls, and when they do that, they look very good. Obviously, the run game is still likely to be a struggle if they remain one-dimensional with Clayton Maines. They tried a few other running backs back there as well last week to try to get something going against Homewood. But I think that the presence of Chilton County's defensive line, especially with DeMarcus Riddick up there, it's really going to limit what they're able to do on that aspect of the ball. So I think if they're able to hold down on defense, lock up some of what Chilton County is able to do, and then just attack the air, and really make some big plays early, just demoralize Chilton County and get the momentum on their side and get this home crowd behind them as well, I think that Pelham could walk away with the win. I do think it's probably going to be close, though.
Yeah, I think Pelham should win this game. Like I said, it's the last home game of the season for them. They get Spain Park on the road the week after this. So just a chance for them to come out in front of the home crowd for the last time this season. Clayton Maines, a chance to have one last big night there for the Panthers as the starting quarterback. I think ultimately, they're the better team. They are the better team. It's just a matter of, there's no playoff hopes, there's no aspirations there, so it's just coming out, not losing your focus, being able to put everything you have into it, and I think that home field advantage is what can make the difference. They've played better against the top teams in the region this season than Chilton County has, and they're playing a little bit better offensively, playing a little bit better defensively as well. So I expect that Pelham's going to come out, final home game of the season against Chilton County, walk away with the win, and give this team a little bit of confidence going into that game against Spain Park, which you never know could be an intriguing game as well. Could be some stuff on the line for postseason implications there. So 2 weeks left for the Pelham Panthers, a chance for them to end region play and their final home game with a win there at Pelham High School. It's been a tough season for the Calera Eagles. Now enter this game against Gadsden City on the road, coming off a 49-0 shutout loss against the Helena Huskies, and not much to hang your head on there, taking on one of the best teams in the state in that loss. But Calera just doesn't have anything going from a momentum standpoint this year, struggling on both sides of the ball, giving up 44 points per game, scoring around 7 points per game. And taking on a Gadsden City team that's been pretty good this season so far, scoring about 40 points per game and giving up 21.4 points per game. So, Andrew, what's your breakdown on this matchup? Is there any magic that Calera can find to be able to pick up a win?
I think it's going to be very difficult for them to find anything just because of the success that Gadsden City has had this year. They're the region champions, and they're absolutely on a roll right now. Last 3 games, 69 points against Hazel Green, 42 points against May Jemison, and then 41 points on offense against Lee Huntsville. This is just really stacking itself in the favor of the Titans right now. I think that's just going to be hard for Calera to keep up. You mentioned the defense allowing 40 points per game. This is an offense that's scoring 40 points per game, so it's going to be very hard from that as well. And then I think that this Gadsden City defense is going to be able to do what it needs to on that side of the ball against a Calera team that really just doesn't have that much momentum. Expect a result similar to what we've seen over the last few weeks in Calera matchups. I'm expecting a big Gadsden City win in this, while Calera goes into that final matchup against McAdory looking for that first win of the season.
Yeah, for Calera, this is a situation where you finished 0-6 in region play. You hadn't won a game yet this season, so an opportunity to get a lot of young players, some playing time, some experience here. They're a young football team. They had some difficult situations going into the season, early in the season as well. So just been a lot to battle against this year with a lot of young football players. They just lost so much from last year, and it just hadn't never been able to get going this year. But with those young players, you never know what the future holds, a chance for them to get some valuable experience here in these final 2 non-region games. So go out, have some fun, play loose, and we'll see what happens. But ultimately, yes, Gadsden City right now the better team in this matchup. They're a good football team overall, should be able to walk away with the win. For the Shelby County Wildcats, they're another team that's in a bizarre playoff situation. For those final 2 spots in their region, they're currently in a 3-way tie after their loss a week ago, and we thought that they were in, and it looked like they were going to be in that matchup a week ago, but they end up losing a tight matchup, and now the last 2 weeks against Selma and Marbury, they're in a situation where if they win those 2 games, they're easily in as the 3 seed. Now they're sitting in a 3-way tie, and it's going to be an interesting finish to the season because it comes down, Andrew, to defeated non-region opponents and how many wins those non-region opponents that you beat, how many wins they have total combined. And right now, none of these teams have a non-region win. So for Shelby County, that could make these final 2 weeks of non-region games very important, because if you win both of them, very good chance that you get the 3 seed in this region. You lose both, there's a chance that you miss out on the playoffs altogether. So this week they host Rehobeth, and this is going to be a matchup in which it's going to be difficult, and nothing's going to be easy for Shelby County right now. And we started to see some flashes from the offense, which is the good thing, but last week just got off to a slow start defensively and put the offense in a bad situation. If the defense started strong last week, the way the offense played, they did enough to win that game. So this week against Rehobeth, they're going to have to pick up, get off to a fast start in this matchup. And this is a team that, Rehobeth won this game 23-12 last year. I think they're a little bit better this year. Shelby County about the same as they were a season ago. And so you look at that, this matchup on paper, these two teams very, very similar, both scoring right around 15, 16, 17 points per game, giving up right around 26 points per game. Which team is it that's going to be able to make the difference here in this matchup? A little bit more to play for maybe with Shelby County. Maybe that's something that gives them the edge.
Definitely. It's really hard to dissect on paper. It feels like such a coin flip going into this game, but you're right about Shelby County. They have a lot more to play for in these last couple of games. Trying to get that 3 seed, which you don't obviously see this type of playoff stakes going into the final 2 games of non-region play, but that's exactly what they have right here. And they have phenomenal opportunity in front of them to go out here and take advantage of a pretty great situation. Rehobeth has struggled this season in region play, but they do have 2 quality results against the top teams in the region, a win over Charles Henderson and a very close loss to Eufaula as well. I think at the end of the day, though, it's going to be that defense that needs to show up. We didn't see that last week, which is very uncharacteristic for Shelby County this season. It's typically been the defense that's led the way, and the offense has come in behind that, trying to make up some of the gap. But last week it was the offense, and even last week as well, the week before that as well against Selma. It's been 2 very good offensive performances for Shelby County that I think that they can build off of. And if the defense recovers and plays well, I think that they're going to be able to keep it close. But right now, I just kind of have to go with what I'm seeing between these 2 teams right now. I might regret this later in this week, but I'm going with Rehobeth just because of what I think that they're going to be able to do against the Wildcats defense this week, based off their performances in the last couple of weeks. But we've seen this Wildcats defense, when it's on fire, they're able to get some very good results, able to get some turnovers and really impact the game from there. So it would not surprise me whatsoever to see Shelby County walk away with the victory.
Yeah, Shelby County, like you said, I mean, they're playing for something big. They've got to win this game. They've got to win their last game. If they win both, likely going to be the 3 seed going into the playoffs. So a lot at stake here for the Wildcats. That could be what sends them over the top in this game. We see the offense starting to get those flashes of success the last 2 weeks. Really played well in a couple of situations. Not consistent, but they've played well enough to win football games. Defense has to carry off of that and play well this week also. But, Rehobeth right now, they've shown a little bit of success more on a consistent basis, and I think that that's what makes the difference. Shelby County, a lot to play for, but we just haven't seen them consistently put it together. And until we do, it's tough to trust that they're going to do it each and every week. So take care of business this week. You're in a good situation, but right now Shelby County just got to show us that on the field. We've seen some flashes. Now it's just about putting it together early on offense and defense, come out in the second half, and then really just kind of pull away. They're going to have their chances to win this football game. We'll see if they're able to capitalize on them, but right now have to see them prove it on the football field. A huge week ahead for the Montevallo Bulldogs and the opportunity that they have taking on American Christian Academy at home this week for the Montevallo Bulldogs. If they win, they get the 2 seed in this region. If they lose, very good chance they end up in a 3-way tie for the final 2 playoff spots in this region, and that's not what you want to happen because there's a chance that they miss out on the playoffs altogether if that happens. And so for the Montevallo Bulldogs, it can go from the 2 seed to out of the playoffs in the blink of an eye. So easiest thing to do, take care of business, and you get a home playoff game. Tough part about that is you're taking on one of the best teams in the state in American Christian Academy, and a team that is looking to finish with that home field advantage in the 2 seed in this region. Right now, though, if Montevallo does lose this game, comes down to a 3-way tie with them in West Blockton and Sipsey Valley, assuming that those 2 teams respectively beat Hell County and Dallas County this week. If that happens, which we expect that to be the case, there's a 3-way tie, and then it would come down to defeated non-region opponents and their total wins, which we've said about 50 times on the show so far this week. And right now, as we sit with 2 weeks left, West Blockton's defeated non-region opponents have a total of 9 wins this season, Sipsey Valley 8 wins, Montevallo 5. So West Blockton would get the edge there for the 3 seed, and then it would come down to head-to-head between Montevallo and Sipsey Valley, which the Bulldogs were able to win that matchup, so they would get in with the 4 seed. That said, Sipsey Valley and West Blockton very close right now in those total wins with their defeated non-region opponents. And what that means for Montevallo, if they lose this game and that somehow flips and Sipsey Valley wins that 3-way tiebreaker, because of those non-region opponents. Then Sipsey Valley gets in as the 3 seed. West Blockton would have the head-to-head and get in as the 4 seed over Montevallo. So a lot on the line this week. If you win, you get the 2 seed. That's the big thing. If you lose, then it's a lot of relying on other things to unfold the way they need to. And, Andrew, this is a very good ACA team that Montevallo is taking on. We've seen Montevallo at times play well. We've seen them at times not play well. And more specifically, it's been the offense that struggled. Against Bibb County, they lose that game 34-0. Defense really did what they needed to make that at least give them an opportunity in that game against Bibb County. Just a very good defensive Bibb County team. It's going to be similar this week, I think. This is an American Christian team that's balanced on both sides of the ball. I think Montevallo's defense can do enough to keep them in this game and give them chances, but can the offense make enough plays? With what we saw from Rosario Conwell last week, he had another big game, but they're without Javon Rogers for the rest of the season, their star receiver, and they really hadn't had much of a passing game to begin with. So can they make enough offensive plays to be able to win this game?
I really don't know, but obviously if they're able to do anything here, it would be a program-defining win for them. It'd be their first time beating ACA since their first meeting back in 2016, and it's really been a one-sided series ever since. Last 3 matchups, a 24-7 win for American Christian last year, a 34-10 win back in 2021, and then a 2020 team that we saw a pretty good team from Montevallo that year. It was still 63-31 back in that year. And then ACA this year, they've scored 44 points in their last 4, so it's going to be a tough challenge for even the stout Montevallo defense to really be able to contain them. I think they're really clicking at the right time. Very strong team overall. Their lone losses are single-digit losses to a pretty good 5A team in Demopolis, and then obviously number 9 Bibb County as well. But it's that offense that needs to show up for Montevallo. They need to be more than just one-dimensional, need to rely on more than just Rosario Conwell and the other things that they have in the running game as well, and just find some playmakers outside. They really need to attack that aspect of the game. But even at the end of the day, though, this is an American Christian team that's really explosive on offense, and it's going to be a very difficult task for even a defense like Montevallo to handle. So I think at the end of the day that's really what's going to make the difference at the end of the day as well. So I think that it's going to be an American Christian win.
Yeah, and you talk about kind of having some balance. I'm going to go the opposite of that. Do what you can do, because right now we haven't seen them be able to throw the football, and maybe that's where you catch ACA stepping up a little bit in the box and you are able to beat them over the top. But it's almost going to have to be an Auburn situation. We've seen Auburn this year. They just can't throw the football to save their lives. And Montevallo almost needs to go in this game and just say, well, if we can't do that, we're going to just try to ram it down your throats this entire game. It's going to be tough to do that against a physical and good ACA defense. But at the end of the day, if you can come out and really set a physical tone early in this game, keep it lower scoring, you've got a good enough defense that if you come out and run this ball well, you're able to eventually wear them down, get some chunk plays. That may be your best chance at a win. But if they do find balance, like you said, obviously that's going to give them a good opportunity as well. But we just haven't seen that so far this season on a consistent basis. So, like you said, American Christian just too good on both sides of the ball. The way that they're playing offense. The last loss was Bibb County. They lose that one 22-20. Obviously, Montevallo lost to Bibb County 34-0. And since then, American Christian Academy just been playing too good of football down the stretch. I think that they're the better team. I think Montevallo's got a little bit more to play for. ACA wants that 2 seed, but Montevallo knows what can happen if they don't get the 2 seed and the possibilities that are there. So maybe that's something that gives them an extra edge in the physical side of this game, especially in the trenches, to be able to walk away with the win, but I think a little bit too much to overcome. Defense will play well. Offense will have its chances early in this game. They're going to have to set a tone there in that first quarter that they can score a touchdown or two to hang around and then have their chance in the second half. But ACA, too much right now. I expect American Christian Academy to walk away with the win, earn the 2 seed. I still think Montevallo going to slide in as the 3 or the 4 seed when things unfold here at the end of the year, so they should be in the postseason, but still a lot to play for here in this game against American Christian Academy. The Vincent Yellow Jackets fall in a back-and-forth battle with Isabella last week, 35-28, a game that they had some chances in. They were a little bit sluggish at times, and then they come back from that, they would score and make it a game again, and it was just back and forth that whole game. Ultimately end up losing 35-28. and still an outside shot that they can get the 2 seed in this region. It's going to take a lot, and it starts with beating Thorsby, who right now, if they win this game, they get the 2 seed in the region, a team that's playing some good football at this point in time. Beyond that, though, if Vincent wins this game, there'd be a 3-way tie for the final 3 spots in this region. If they lose, they're going to get the 4 seed. So they really need to win this football game to have a chance at getting a better seed and getting home field advantage in the playoffs. If they win, they get that opportunity. But if they lose, they're going to get the 4 seed. Win, there's going to be a 3-way tie. And right now, Isabella, if they beat Keith in their final non-region game, they would get the 2 seed. Otherwise, if Isabella goes on to lose to Keith in that game, then Vincent would get the 2 seed in this region due to defeated non-region opponents and their win totals this season as we bring it up again. So big opportunity for Vincent still ahead. I don't think that Isabella's going to lose to Keith that final week anyways, and we've still got this week to play. And in this game, it looks like Thorsby right now, the better team, as they look to close out the 2 seed in this region. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this game? Does Vincent have what they need to be able to walk away with the win?
I think they have what they need to win. They've just got to take care of their own stuff on both sides of the ball. I think that they had a great chance to win last week against Isabella, but it was a lot of self-inflicted errors that got them in the end that ultimately hurt them from being able to keep up with a very good Isabella team. And this week they have a similar challenge against Thorsby. Thorsby's been very solid, and they have a very explosive offense. Put up 50 points in a win over Isabella. And then whereas Vincent was struggling against BB Comer, they still posted 13 points against that tough defense. And I think that means that this Vincent defense, allowing just 16.3 points per game, is going to have to come out in its top form this week, be able to just get consistent stops on that side of the ball, give your offense as many chances to win as you can, and then when you have the ball, limit turnovers, limit mistakes, just keep control of the ball and keep consistently making plays. I think if both of those things happen, Vincent is going to be able to win. It's probably going to be close, though, just given what these two teams have been this season, but I think that Vincent definitely has what it takes in order to pick up a win in that situation as well.
Yeah, for Vincent, it boils down to just that consistent effort. Their defense has played well enough this year to really put them in a spot to be a region champion for the most part, just by the way they've played. Offense has not been as consistent, though, and that's been the difference this year to last year's team. The offense just had so many weapons, so many playmakers. This year they had to replace a lot of those players, and they had enough back to where they were going to be a good football team, and they are a good football team. But this week you've got a Thorsby team that's playing good defense, but their offense has just played a consistent game so far this season, and I think that's what makes the difference in this game. The offense of Thorsby and what we've seen from them. Yes, Vincent's defense is going to slow them down, but can they slow them down enough to where Vincent doesn't have to score 35-plus points in this game? That's going to be the key, and I don't think that's the case. I think this is going to be kind of like last week, a 35-28 game, somewhere in that range. Vincent's really going to have to get their offense going, get 35-plus points to be able to pick up a win, and right now I just don't know that they have that extra edge on the offensive side of the football to be able to do what they need to. But that's it. Last year they won this game 43-8. They're going to have every opportunity that they need. If this defense shows up and can hold this team down below 20 points, you got to feel really good about your chances then. So that's the message this week. Come out, have a good week of practice. This is a team that's still very talented, but they're just that edge, that confidence that they had last year throughout the entire season that they were the best team. I think they still slightly have it, that they're a talented team that can win every time they go out there. But one negative play, and that doubt starts to creep in a little bit more than it did a year ago with the success that they were having then. So I think ultimately that could be what makes the difference in this game, just a couple of plays that could get them down on themselves. If they can stay positive this whole game, very good chance that they're going to be able to walk away with the win. But this is a very good Thorsby team, and I think Thorsby going to end up winning this football game. That means Vincent's still in the playoffs. They've already clinched a playoff spot, would get the 4 seed, but if the Jackets can pick up a win, still an outside shot at the 2 seed here in this region. Plenty for them to be confident and play for here this final week, and plenty of confidence throughout the week of practice as well leading up to it. We'll see if the Yellow Jackets able to pull off this win against a very good Thorsby football team. Now we jump down to the AISA and the ACSC. We've got one playoff game as the Evangel Lightning kick off the ACSC state playoffs, and then beyond that, Cornerstone at Bessemer Academy, Coosa Valley hosting Sparta this week. So a big week for all three of these teams. As you look at Coosa Valley looking to end the regular season with some confidence, Cornerstone looking to remain perfect as they go into the playoffs in 8-man AISA play, and obviously Andrew Evangel looking to win their playoff opener in the first round of the ACSC state playoffs to get a spot in the state championship a week later. So you look at those three matchups, Andrew, what are you looking at and who's going to walk away with the win?
Well, first let's start with the big playoff matchup in here with Evangel taking on East Central. Evangel now in the stretch of the season where they know what to expect. They know they're just a few wins away from a state championship and a national playoff appearance, so they want to take care of business here in this, get to a state title game, and win the state for another year. This is a 44-0 win in the regular season where East Central didn't really have a lot of answers for Evangel early on, and I think Evangel has just really gotten better ever since on both offense and defense. I expect both of those units to show up here, especially with a week of rest. This is a team that hasn't taken a bye week since the beginning of the season, and you remember that they played an extra week at the start of the season against Cary Christian as well, so that's even more games under their belt as well. So I think having that week of rest and that week of preparation is really going to help this team ahead of the playoffs, and I think that they're going to be able to keep that momentum going from what they were able to finish it off in the regular season and pick up the win, advance to the state championship game. As for Cornerstone, they're going for their first undefeated regular season this year. They already have the best record in school history, but it's about finishing that season with 0 losses. That's going to mean so much for this program and going to inspire them going into this week against a Bessemer Academy team that's 3-6, all 3 wins against teams with 3 wins or less. To this point in the season, I think that Cornerstone is really just now clicking at the right time, and they've got a lot going for them. So I think that there's not really that many ways where Bessemer Academy comes out and gets this win. I think that Cornerstone is going to win and seal off that historic season for them, be a phenomenal step for them going into the playoffs for them this season. And then as for Coosa Valley, just looking to finish the year strong. Missing out on the playoffs last week with the loss against Southern Academy. They put up points, scoring 27 on offense, but they weren't able to keep up, allowing 42 points in that 42-27 loss. But I think that this is going to be a team that comes out playing and motivated at home for their last game of the season, ready to be able to do some things on both sides of the ball with a lot of lessons and a lot of momentum that they've gained over the course of this season, finally starting to put it together within the last couple of weeks. And I think that's going to be enough in the end. It's probably going to be close. This was a 13-12 game last year, but I think that there's a little bit more offensive firepower than there was last year for Coosa Valley, so I'm going to step out on the ledge. I'm picking Coosa Valley in a close one for this game, which would give them a second win of the season to end out the year.
Yep, I'll join in on that. I think Coosa Valley's going to win that game as well. This is a Sparta team that lost to Abbeville 24-22. We all saw what Coosa Valley did to them in a 56-22 win. So I think Coosa Valley, the better team in this matchup, as both of those teams struggling to score and giving up a lot of points, both giving up 43 points per game, scoring right at 14 points per game so far this season. So should be a good game, but I think Coosa Valley going to win that one. Evangel won this game against East Central 44-0 in the regular season, sitting at 10-0, looking for another undefeated another undefeated season as a whole. I expect them to win this one, punch their ticket to the state championship game in the ACSC. And then Cornerstone, big thing here is Bessemer Academy, an 11-man team taking on an 8-man team. How does that transition for this matchup? But ultimately, Cornerstone, they're confident, they're playing well, sitting at 8-0, scoring 53 points per game, giving up 17 points per game, playing too well on both sides of the ball. I think Cornerstone gets one more win to close out a perfect regular season, head into the postseason here as they look to close out an AISA 8-man state championship year there for the Cornerstone Chargers. All right, it's time to hand out some stars in our SCR Stars of the Week segment, and a more personable list this week. Not a ton to talk about this week. I'm going to kick it off for us, Andrew, with my 2 stars of the week. Then we'll jump over to you and come back to me with our honorable mention players. But I'm going to start at Spain Park, and I'm going to finish at Spain Park. Both of my stars going to Brock Bradley and Jonathan Bibbs. Bradley, 26-33, 410 passing yards, 4 touchdowns in that upset of number 5 Hewitt-Trussville, a 50-29 victory. a sophomore quarterback. Just unreal what he's done and the growth that he's shown throughout this season, and had to play a lot of the season without a couple of his star running backs, without Reggie Jackson, one of his star receivers, and he was still having to throw the football a lot. And that's where Jonathan Bibbs came into play. That's where he's going to come into play in a second. But I think you saw him grow because of how much pressure he had on his arm, and he stood up to it, and it paid off here in that game against Hewitt-Trussville as the Jags keep their playoff hopes alive. And it helps when you've got some talented wideouts like Reggie Jackson and Jonathan Bibbs. Bibbs in this one, 10 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown, nearly 200 yards receiving in that game as he stepped up in a big way. And that's what makes this team so dangerous. And if they don't make the playoffs, it's going to be such a disappointment because I think they could make a run. They're healthy. The offense is so balanced. The defense is as talented as it's been in several years. I really want to see this team play some more football because I think they're the best version of themselves right now. And I think they're honestly a top 10 team in the state right now when you look at the talent in Class 7A Region 3 and what they've been. If they were healthy, chance they beat Vestavia, and I think they do beat Hoover, and you're looking at a possible 2 seed here going into the playoffs. So that bodes well for this Spain Park team in the future. But those 2 guys, my 2 stars of the week, 2 guys I think that are going to step up big again this week against Oak Mountain. Andrew, who are your 2 stars of the week here from this past week of region action?
Yeah, I'm going to spread out mine a little bit more across multiple schools and across multiple sides of the ball as well. And I'm going to start out with a player that I've been so impressed with all season long and who just really stepped up in a big way last week, and that's Anquan Fagans, defensive back over at Thompson. He's obviously played lights out in coverage this year, but it's when he's able to make an impact with turnovers is really when he's able to carry this team on that side of the ball, and he did just that last week. He got 2 interceptions and housed one for a touchdown. There's not really much more of an impact that you can make on that side of the ball from a turnover standpoint, then 2 interceptions and 1 score. So that's why Anquan Fagans is my first star of the week. And then going into second star of the week, Rosario Conwell, running back at Montevallo. He's had multiple SCR Stars worthy performances this year. Obviously taking on a bit of a struggling Holt team last week, but it was just what he was able to do when they were able to get out to that 42-0 lead at half. 7 carries, 174 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Just absolutely unstoppable when you look at an average yards per carry standpoint, and just the fact that he housed 4 of his 7 carries for a score, 3 in the first quarter, 1 in the second quarter. Just an absolutely dominant performance. Headline-worthy statement from Conwell that he's going to absolutely need coming into a big matchup against ACA this week. But for now, he walks away with my second star of the week for the Montevallo Bulldogs.
Yeah, Fagans has been a guy that a lot of teams have stayed away from, and you see why, because when you throw his way, a good chance he's going to intercept a ball, and it's just been consistent that way throughout the season. Conwell going to need a big, big game, like you said, from him this week if they want a chance to step up and beat American Christian Academy, get the 2 seed in that region. The honorable mention list, just a few guys to touch on here, and we stay at Thompson for 2 of them. A.J. Green, running back there for the Warriors, 10 carries, 125 yards, continued a trend of going over 100 yards, and he's getting going at the right time of the year as they near the playoffs. You've obviously got Michael Dujon right behind him, and then a balance out wide with the passing attack, and Trent Seaburn to those multiple receivers that they've got there at Thompson as well. But you mentioned Anquan Fagans, another defensive back at Thompson, who I think's been the breakout player of the year this year, and that's Caleb Harris. He's been one of the most consistent defenders every week this season, chasing down the ball. He's always around the football. And this past week, a team-high 7 tackles, also had a fumble recovery for the Warriors. He's going to continue to be a name you hear about a lot here over the next few weeks as we get into the playoff run. And at Helena, right here, 2 guys we need to talk about. Travis McDaniel, 5 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Need him to really step up because Torrey Ward's been injured. Hunter Hell's a guy that when you're able to focus on him, makes it a little bit more difficult. We know what he can do in all facets of the game as well. But Travis McDaniel, a big performance there. Selena got to play a lot of different players this past week. I think that benefits them going into a game like this, but really going into the playoffs, especially as teams start to get banged up, you want to be as deep as possible. And then Carson Acker didn't have to do a ton last week, but 13 of 15, 155 yards and a touchdown. Very efficient in that win against Calera, and that's what you want to see. If he goes down to Benjamin Russell this week and does not turn the football over and has that kind of performance, it doesn't matter if you go over 200 yards, whatever, as long as you're consistent, don't turn the football over with what you've got on this football team from an offensive standpoint, that's something that can make a huge difference. So a strong, efficient effort for Carson Acker. That's what they'll need to see again this week against Benjamin Russell. That does it for our SCR Stars of the Week, and with everything that's at stake this week, region championship, playoff spots, seeding, everything that could happen this week, I expect we'll have some guys step up in a big way here in the final week of region play as well. That brings us to the end of the Shelby County High School football show. And, Andrew, this is one we just talked about it, joked off camera, that's been one of our favorite shows so far this season. I'm not sure anybody else could comprehend it because of how jumbled up my playoff rundown was there and what all could happen. And that's what makes this week so fun. The final week of region play, it could leak into the final week of the regular season as far as what we get from our teams who are going to make the playoffs. I know you're looking forward to that Helena-Benjamin Russell game as you're going to travel down to see that matchup. Is it that game? Is it something else? What is it that stands out to you this week that you're looking forward to most, and what can unfold here at the end of Friday night?
I think what really just stands out is the number of teams that we've obviously broken down that have so much to play for right now. This is all that you ask for going into the last week of region play, and even into next week if that potentially spills over to the last week of non-region games. It's just meaningful games for very talented teams that have so much to play for and can come out and give some phenomenal performances, some opportunities for some big program-defining wins, a few more opportunities for teams to sneak into the playoffs and make some big statements. It's just top to bottom. It's hard to really find a matchup to not get up and excited for this week, and that's everything that you want as a high school football fan. So whether you make it out to one of these games this week or follow along with our coverage, I hope you enjoy this action as much as we do, because I feel like this week is going to be very fun and very exciting.
I just hope for chaos. That's all I hope for. I hope something chaotic happens, whether it's in Class 7A Region 3 and Spain Park getting a chance at the playoffs and it going down to that Spain Park Pelham game. That would be so much fun and so cool going into the final week of the regular season. Make that final week worth a lot as well. Or Class 6A Region 3 with Briarwood, Helena, Homewood, and Benjamin Russell and everything that could happen there. And beyond that, Vincent, Shelby County, Montevallo, so much can happen this week, and I just hope for some chaos, some fun. It makes our jobs more fun and obviously makes it more worth it as we stay up late and get all this coverage out there on Friday night. But that's going to do it for this week's Shelby County High School football show. We'll see you all on Friday night. Andrew will be down covering that game. Benjamin Russell, Helena. Still trying to figure out where I'll be. Probably Thompson, Hoover. But just a lot of fun we're going to have. And we'll have our Facebook Live pregame show set for you on Friday night before all of the fun begins. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you on Friday night. Enjoy your week.